I think we're live. We are live. We are definitely live right now for an episode of After Hours here on the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel. Joe Poirot, my guy, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Doing great, Jer. Doing great. Happy Father's Day and congrats on the Vintage Spotlight inaugural release.
Thank you. Yeah, that was, and it was so cool that the chat all started saying, "Oh, I'm subscriber number 6, 7, 13, 14." That was a lot of fun. That was cool. So I'm grateful everybody who did subscribe to the Vintage Spotlight. If you're just here, you weren't watching the last show. Leighton Sheldon and I are launching a new podcast YouTube channel called Vintage Spotlight. It's a spinoff from Sports Cards Live's Vintage Spotlight segment where he's been coming on for 18 months. What's up, Lapper? Says, what's up? We already said hi. This one can be just for Joe. Lapper one, what's going on? Good stuff. Chris C. Yeah, Jerry West, legendary player and GM, traded to get Kobe. That's right. That was it. Vlade Divac that he traded to get Kobe. I think it was.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was Vlade. What's up, Redemption? Welcome back to the Late Show. Oh, let's hit go live on Instagram. We'll push this one out to Instagram too for anyone who's on their late night and wants to check it out. Yep, there we go. Yeah, he knows. Professor's back. Thank you, Professor, for joining the Vintage Spotlight YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm going to see how many subscribers we got there now. 20. We have 21 subscribers. We started with 2, me and Leighton, a couple hours ago. We're up to 21 subscribers on the Vintage Spotlight YouTube channel. So that's cool. Thanks, everybody who did subscribe to that. Joe, did you manage to watch that whole episode or some of it with David?
I sure did. He was cool as a cucumber and provided a lot of good, sort of tips of the trade, if you will. And there was a lot. I will say, so much information. It was nice, kind of maybe 2/3 the way through the show where he sort of rolled back the caution to the degree that, there's not going to be quite that level of scrutiny. That's how I interpreted it. If you're sort of in the realm of, the casual collector, which was a bit of a relief for me.
Yeah. I don't want to start to say, don't worry about it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze for the IRS, because if they ever launch a campaign on the sports collector community, it could get dirty for some people. But again, I like when he said, the IRS is a business. So if they're going to put 1,000 man hours to squeeze $1,000 out of somebody, it's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
So it's got to be worth their time. And he also, in our prior discussions, he was mentioning they're going to have to build a fraud case. And I don't know if he meant that for all taxpayers who don't report all their income, or if he was thinking about something different. But it made me just think that, we need to I think you just need to kind of do the best you can, report as much as you can. But when it comes to trades, how do you even do that? Especially if you're making a dozen trades a day at a card show, how do you actually find that you're going to lose business because you're too busy creating your documentation? And that's probably the way it's supposed to be from the IRS, from the tax code. But practically speaking, probably very few people actually do all that. Jeff McMahon is back. What's going on? 99-cent card CA is number 22 on the Vintage Spotlight. We're up to 24 now. Jeff McMahon just subscribed too. That must be, you guys bumped us from 21. Yeah, we're at 24 subscribers now, guys. That's a lot of fun. It's it's 4.5 or so years ago, Joe, since I launched Sports Cards Live. And I remember getting to that 100 subscribers was such a big deal, because I think then you could either monetize or no, it wasn't monetized. I think at that point you could get your own youtube.com/sportscardslive. It wouldn't be some, coded sort of URL. So pretty cool. Todd McDonald, thanks so much for subscribing, buddy, and good evening. And thanks for saying hi to Joe too. So Joe, what's going on with you hobby wise? What have you been up to buying and selling cards? We'll get into the couple topics that we teased everybody, but Joe's a good buddy of mine. We've been pals now you've been on After Hours more than anybody has. This is episode 82. it's probably the second episode in 6 or 7 months, but it's episode 82 of After Hours, the late show here. And you started coming on with me at the beginning. We've been pals for a long time now. So I like to keep up with what you're doing hobby-wise. Fill us in. Any cards on your radar? Have you bought anything lately? What are you picking up these days?
Yeah, I mean, with the NBA basketball season kind of wrapping up, I've definitely been in that mode of kind of just assessing, my collection with regards to Luka and Ant-Man, and keeping an eye on my Golden State Warriors. Obviously, we had a rough season, and we're on the verge of potentially losing Klay Thompson. And I'm definitely, along with being a Steph Curry collector, I've got a lot of Klay Thompson. And so that's always an interesting moment as a collector when you are potentially seeing a cornerstone of your rooting team, your franchise team, potentially leaving. And then you're kind of like, oh, wow, now he won't, if he goes to the Orlando Magic or some other team to wrap up his career, it's a little sad. And it's also, you kind of look at your collection and go, okay, well, I guess I'm glad I have what I have. And do I want to liquidate any of my Klay collection? Because I have quite a bit of Klay. So yeah, that's just eye on the NBA mostly. Haven't really turned my mind to much else recently.
So you do collect NBA. You also collect vintage baseball. Can we tell the story of what was it? Don't tell me. His name is escaping me, but it shouldn't be. Okay, it's escaping me. What was the baseball player's? Larry Doby.
Right.
Can we tell the story of the Larry Doby card?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So why don't you start? What was happening with the? Okay, set the stage. What's the card and what was happening? Before you do, though, get it straight in your head. I just want a couple of comments. I just want to thank some people here. Lapper, number 26. Awesome. Mookie Chilson, he's expecting great things from the Vintage Spotlight. I love that, Mookie. Thank you. Lapper says one day you'll be as big as Lapper 30 Flips YouTube channel. Guys, check out Lapper. His name's Aaron. Check out his YouTube channel if you haven't yet as well. I'd appreciate it on his behalf. And vintage, dang, Joe's at the beach again. Oh, Rome Rant is in Paris. Rome sold me a couple of great cards at the Edmonton Expo. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome to the show. Thanks, everybody. And just so you can see, here's the Vintage Spotlight YouTube channel. That's what it looks like. And we are up to, 27. I'll hit refresh, see if we're still at 27. We're at 27 subscribers. So thank you to those 25 of you. One is me, the other is Leighton. So 25 participants in the show. But okay, Joe, Larry Doby card. I'm gonna serve this up to you. So I remember you reached out to me probably 4 months ago. You're like, I got this card. I'm talking to somebody about it. Tell us about the Larry Doby card and a bit more about it.
Well, it's somewhat of a bittersweet story because it's definitely a card that I cherished. Maybe got it, I don't know, 15 years ago, and of course, David's words are in my head right now, so I'm being a little cautious about all
the IRS is watching. IRS is watching right now.
The financials, but anyway, it's kind of a niche card in the sense that it was a PSA DNA certified autograph, a really beautiful autograph on a Bowman rookie, Larry Doby, 1949, 48, 49. And I made the choice that it was time to part with it for financial reasons. And but it was hard to get a sense of what it was valued at. And I think that's sort of around the point that I reached out to you, and I kind of tossed it up on eBay with what seemed to me like an exorbitant, bin with the, best offer option. And I started, it drew a lot of attention immediately because not only was it PSA DNA certified, but it was also a PSA 5, which, for those old, 49 Bowmans, they're not easy to come by in pretty crisp condition, much less autographed with a a sort of extra inscription of best wishes. So anyway, long story short, I said, Jerry, like, I don't know, this is a hard card to comp. What do you think I should do? And I got this pretty darn good offer that seemed, at least in the wheelhouse of reasonable. And that's I think when you and I talked.
Yeah, yeah. You were talking to you got an offer from somebody. I think you tracked each other down, I don't know, through eBay to Instagram, perhaps. And I happen to know that collector, great collector. You got an offer on the card, and I mean, do we want to use numbers or you don't want to use numbers here? Your call.
Well, it was roughly half of what I ended up getting for it. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. So you got an offer on the card, and and I was like, I don't know, man. Like, this is these autographed vintage baseball rookies are kind of all the rage right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's enough. Even though the guy who offered it to you is someone that we're acquaintances, but that, it's fine. I'm like, I don't think that's enough. And you're like, well, what should I do? And I think I gave you the advice. I think I said to you, that's a card that if I owned it, I would take that one to like a heritage auctions and give it to them to sell. I think they're going to have the best audience for that particular card.
Right.
And that's what you did, right? You ended up taking my advice. You sent it to Heritage.
Well, I didn't send it, so to continue with the story, it was right before the Burbank show back in, I believe it was February. And our friend Jeremy Allen, who's a rep at Heritage, I think he specializes more in non-sports, but we know him, and he's a wonderful guy. And so I spotted him there, at the first night at Burbank. And, he brought it over to his guys. They immediately sort of assessed what they thought it could fetch in auction, and Jeremy was wonderful in sort of helping me feel safe. It did, I will say, the one thing with the Heritage is it did take a while for it to reach auction. It did go, it was a long process. They don't do their sports card auctions, I guess, that frequently. But yeah, from there, you just kind of crossed your fingers, and the results were really positive for me as a seller.
I have a question. When you presented them the card at the Burbank show and they gave you their assessment of what they thought it would sell for, and just to pick some numbers, just to use some numbers. So let's say the offer you got was $50, but you ended up selling it for $1,000. Obviously, these are not the numbers, but what was Heritage's assessment of the value? Was it closer to the 50 or closer to the 100? Now, we know you ended up getting 100 for it, but you were offered 50 at first by a private buyer.
Yeah, no, Heritage was right a little below, actually, but pretty close to being on the money with a little, and I think either they were going conservatively, or like you were saying, these vintage autographed rookie cards are, so hot in the market right now that it got bid up, and it's a beautiful piece. I do have another unsigned one, actually, so I can solace myself with that. But Heritage was on the money, if not just a little conservative, and it ended up realizing, more than what they, I think generously assessed, and certainly more than what I was being offered on eBay.
That's awesome. That's awesome when the auction house's value estimate is actually lower than what the card sells for. And I got to tell you, so guys, as far as the story goes, when the card ends up selling, I say to Joe, I go, so what did the Dobie sell for? He's like, sold for $100, like double what that offer came in and more than what they thought. I'm like, oh man, like I'm so happy that I gave you that advice to go sell to get that Heritage audience, because that's where I see these kinds of cards selling the most. And I was like, I don't, I'm not, I like, there's no money in this for me. That was just, advice for a friend, totally. But I was so pleased. That gave me so much satisfaction that I helped you get double. And we're not talking about, we're talking thousands here. Like, you got double what you would have gotten if you would have taken that offer. I was so happy about that, man. I was so happy for you that worked out. So anyway, a little story from Joe's recent collecting experiences here, guys. MSG, welcome to the show. MSG happened to win my Twitter giveaway, one of my Twitter giveaways last week. Twitter. We're just going to go back to calling it Twitter. Mark, thanks for coming back. 90s, what's going on? And Lapper says that's really incredible they can get that close on price for these rare pieces. I'd be curious to see the full thought process and analysis of getting to that number. Yeah, I mean, I think they're guessing, Aaron, like more than anything. I think they're literally guessing what a card is going to sell for based on their experience of seeing same or similar cards selling within, a recent amount of time. Like an autographed 1949 Bowman Larry Doby is a key card for all these people who are now collecting autographed rookie vintage Hall of Fame baseball cards. Larry Doby, also one of the earliest integrators. That added level, number 2, the second integrator after Jackie, that added level of historical significance, I think adds even more value to it. And I think you realized it. And that's great. And I'll tell you what, Joe, while I'm so glad that you got what you got for it, 2 years later, that card could sell for double what you sold it for. Who knows? But you also sold it at a time when those cards are really hot. I think that's a smart move. Anyway, so
yeah.
What's up, Colin Murray? Colin Murray, Hockey Card Exchange in the house. Everybody check out his icon, Hockey Card Exchange. Colin, how was the Detroit Spectacular? Did you get there? Let us know if you went and just how the show was overall. But guys, check out Hockey Card Exchange. And Rome, of course you guys know each other. Of course you do. Want to say hello to 5 people watching on Instagram right now. The show is always better on YouTube. If you want to come over here and join the chat, please, we'd love to invite you over. If not, come in and out on IG. That's cool too. All right, Joe. We just had the death of a major athlete and historical figure. If for no other reason than his silhouette is used for the NBA logo. He is the logo man. He is the logo. Mr. Jerry West just passed away. And on the thumbnail for this After Hours episode, I said, like, when athletes or when players die. And what I meant by that was, what do we do as collectors? Like, what happens as collectors? And I'll tell you what, I don't own a Jerry West 61 Fleer rookie. And I want one now more than I did a week ago, and that'll fade on me for sure. I'll eventually get one, but I'll wait at least a year. But what about you? Like, how do you approach the hobby when a player passes away? Does it make you want to go buy the card? Does it make you want to sell the card? What do you think the general hobby's response is, if you were to kind of take a cross section?
Yeah, I mean, it is something that I find very interesting. As a collector, I think there's all kinds of moments that we either imagine are baked into card prices, or that might be moments where interest is generated, whether that's a player winning an MVP, a player going into the Hall of Fame. The finality of death is perhaps the biggest attention getter, especially if you had an emotional connection to that player. And certainly, Jerry West represented a huge part of basketball culture with his time at the Lakers. I think he was in 9 NBA finals and maybe won 1. He was, I think, the only player to ever win an MVP in a losing effort in the NBA finals. So it's incredibly important figure. Actually was critical in the Warriors deciding to hold on to Klay Thompson. He was in the Warriors front office for, I believe, 4 or 5 years, kind of leading into and around the championship years. But I think where my brain goes is, first thing I do is I assess my own collection. What do I have? Do I have enough? Do I have what I wanted? And I will admit to being, just as susceptible to FOMO as anyone. I mean, I recognize that probably at that moment it's the exact wrong time to be picking up cards, but I'm always curious about what the market's doing. And I'm always, I think the first area of interest for me is kind of considering the autographs, because that's that's the one area that is suddenly now finite, right? As soon as a player passed, I mean, it was kind of brought back memories of the Kobe situation. Although, you know, the difference obviously between Kobe and Jerry West is Jerry West was 86 years old. Kobe was in still very much the prime of his life with family, and nobody expected that. So there's differences in terms of how, you know, a death is experienced by fans, by collectors. And if you do dabble in autographs, I know not everybody does, but if you do dabble in autographs, you suddenly, you know, ask yourself, like, what is out there, and are people, you know, I tend to just look at eBay closed, you know, listings, or, you know, check Card Ladder and kind of just see what is being purchased in that moment. Where are fans, you know, sometimes it's small cards because they just want a memento. Sometimes it's really big cards. Sometimes the things that are, say, on eBay are just getting picked off with some new understanding that, like, you know, an inscription, you know, MVP 1969 or whatever it might be for Jerry West may suddenly be much more attractive to folks, knowing that he will never, you know, be signing another card again. So those are a few things that go through my mind. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, whenever a player dies, and, you know, you brought up Kobe, and we got someone on Instagram, NR the Killing Joke, says, when Kobe died, I went and bought heavy on his rookies. I think that guy's not alone. I mean, I was thinking back to the Kobe death, January 2020, and another difference between Kobe's death and Jerry West's death is just the timing of what else is going on in the world. Kobe died, and then the hobby spiked. Things went absolutely ballistic with the release of the Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, as well as the pandemic. So things went pretty crazy at that point in time. But with that said, my kind of, you know, question, I'll answer your question with a question, which really, and it's rhetorical, but is, what did we learn from Kobe's death? Because he dies, the cards go up like crazy in value. And now they're back. A lot of them are back to where they were. You know, of course they're not all, but some are back to where they were before his death. I would maybe some are even lower than that. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't track all of his cards. But for me, you know, and there's some comments in the chat I'm going to get to in a moment, guys, because they're really good. But to me, when a player dies, my instinct isn't to go sell the cards that I have, because first of all, I don't have a lot of cards of these players. You know, if I had a Jerry West card, I'd have one of them, and I would have bought it to keep. I wouldn't go sell it unless I thought, well, there's a financial opportunity to sell it when he dies. As weird and gross as that might make you feel, capitalize on someone's death financially. But it is kind of part of the game, if you will, because it's allowed. There's nothing, you're not forbidden from selling a card of a player when he dies. A lot of people do it, but you know, yeah, I'm not. I maybe if I felt the opportunity was there, I would sell it, and then I think, oh, I'll buy it back in a year. Just like I said to you, I'm not going to go buy a Jerry West rookie card today. I'll wait a year until he just becomes another dead Hall of Famer. I sort of be so grotesque about it, but that's the way I would probably approach it myself. But let's go to some comments here. First of all, Amanda's in the house, guys. Check out Amanda. Amanda, I only found out today that you had a YouTube channel called The Graded Gamer. I subscribed to you today. So very cool to see you there. But hey, it's Joe, she says. Yes, it's Joe. Good to see you, Amanda. The professor didn't know until he died that Jerry West was the logo. I don't think the hobby let you down. I think you find things out at different times. I wouldn't let it get under your skin there, Professor. I think it's all good. Mark Santucci says, I have Ken Stabler cards. I got it right, didn't I, Stabler? I got it right. Boom. Stabler. All right. Colin Murray was at the Detroit Spectacular. The show was great. Great venue. Bought tons and sold tons of graded baseball and raw hockey. Great experience. That's good to hear, Colin. I'm glad it worked out well for you. Simon says, SCL swag everywhere on my screen. Yeah, my shirt, Joe's hat. How do I get some? Well, believe it or not, there's actually shirts for sale on, if you go to the sportscardslive.com website, there's a link to a little swag store. You can buy yourself a t-shirt, Simon. Thank you for that. Chris says, as a Kobe collector, when he died, I had no interest in selling. I find it morbid to profit off any player's death. I know it's a hobby, but I feel it's unethical. This is a whole topic itself, right?
It is.
And I respect Chris's position on that. I do. I don't know that I'm the exact same way. I would feel a little bit weird about it, but at the end of the day, this is cardboard. These are cards, and maybe now I've never gone and done that. I've never sold. I shouldn't say never because maybe I haven't. I just forget. But I don't recall ever selling a card when I heard that a player died. However, back in 1990, whatever year it was, 1 or 2, when I learned that Magic Johnson had contracted the HIV virus, I went and bought the one Magic Johnson Bird rookie that I knew of at the LCS in the city I lived in. I better grab that now before he dies and it goes up in value or something like that. We didn't know what was going to happen. Thankfully, he's still around and very active, which is great. But I bought a card when I found out someone got sick, but nowadays, like, I don't think now's not the time to buy Jerry West. I don't think it is. You never know, but I doubt it is. So, okay, let's go. We'll do some more comments here, Joe. But Joe, feel free to jump in if you want, if you have a thought when I'm going through this stuff. Vintage says sales activity spikes when someone passes. That's correct. So both buyers and sellers are more interested in the short term. Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of what everyone expects and knows. That's kind of the natural reaction to it, for sure. But Chris C says, while he finds it morbid, to each their own, he has West cards, but he's not selling them. And I think that's fine. Yeah. 99 Cent said Bill Walton as well. Bill Walton and Jerry West, just weeks apart. Two absolute legends. Oh, what are you showing? Let's spotlight that. What do you got there?
Oh, this is, I believe, a 70 Jerry West card. I have a rookie, but it's in the safety deposit box. This one is one I just kind of pulled out, knowing that we were going to be talking about this on the show. But yeah, tall boy, 1970 tops in a very old BVG slab. And I'm not going to be getting rid of this one too. Don't you like the blue there?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful card. Beautiful card.
Yeah. I mean, a couple other things. I mean, maybe it makes a difference if a player, to Chris's point, I think was his name. If a player passes suddenly and tragically, as opposed to, maybe it doesn't, but Jerry West, 86 years old, lived a life. I wasn't actually anticipating that he would pass. I feel like I'd heard of him being out and around in the NBA, but Kobe's passing was truly tragic, and so I would potentially myself kind of feel a little differently if it was, financially I was motivated to liquidate some Jerry West cards. I would feel less morbid, to use that word, than I would say when Kobe passed, suddenly trying to cash in that moment, because then you're capitalizing on not just sort of like a player passing, but the trauma almost and the shock of fans, maybe not even all sports card fans, but or people that are casual sports cards fans, trying to get a piece of someone that they suddenly are missing in a very deep way.
I think you make a great point, distinguishing between the two causes and timings of their death. Kobe, tragic. You're capitalizing when his wife and children are grieving heavily about he's in his early 40s and he dies. Like, come on, it's ridiculous. Like, so sad. I hear you. I think that's a great distinction to make. And I think if I put myself in the shoes of someone who had Kobe cards in end of January 2020, I don't think I would have been selling those cards then. A lot of people did. I mean, there were so many for sale all of a sudden, but I don't think that I would have been selling them, even though I probably would have known that now is the best time to sell them, because that's when most people are going to be tuning in and wanting a piece of Kobe.
Right. No, and the other thing that, this is a little tangential to that point, but the other thing that I think we talk about when we're collecting is, players who've passed are in some ways much more stable, unless some sort of news comes out, after their passing, you know their stats for the most part. Vintage pop counts are reasonably stable. there may be players that eventually surpass them in terms of the record books, but for the most part, you kind of have a stable, understanding of what their achievements are. Where as in living players, there's drama and or circumstances in their personal lives that can have an effect. They certainly, if they're still playing, you don't know if an injury or something along those lines. So I mean, that's an interesting compare and contrast as well between players that are past and players that are current.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mookie Chilson says, I've never really noticed Bill Walton cards on a table before last week's show. Dealers are always ready to fill the increased demand. If I'm a dealer and I've got them in my inventory, I have no issues with them selling them. It's part of their inventory. The fact that the player died, that's just good for their business at that point. I don't think they should be ethically required or anyone should expect them to remove them from the table. Although I do remember, I think it was Kobe, maybe an athlete dying after Kobe, but I think it was when Kobe died. Well, do you know what I'm getting at here?
I'm not entirely sure, but I know that you and I were actually together at the Burbank show when, I believe, shortly after Bill Russell passed, and I was actually in the market kind of for a 57 Topps Bill Russell, and then when he passed, it all kind of took off, and I'm kind of in that same position of still sort of waiting. I think they're coming back to, maybe they don't come all the way down, especially for those icons. I mean, I would guess that Kobe cards, went way up, but didn't come back down to where they were, because I think there was some market elements there at play that maybe Kobe was undervalued in some ways. But anyway, the Bill Russell moment there, and I think I remember looking at some with you, hard card to find, centered, and with good eye appeal, and expensive, 57.
Yeah, so where I was going with that was that I seem to recall, maybe it was some Facebook groups or something where we're saying, maybe it was a basketball Facebook group when Bill Russell died or when Kobe died, that said no one can list for sale any Kobe card or Bill Russell, whoever it was, for 48 hours. Like we're going to respect this player that we all are here collecting and loving. No sales of his cards. And I on the one hand, I'm like, well, okay, so you're stopping commerce, which is fine. You do it, run your group however you want. On the other hand, I'm like, that's pretty darn cool that these guys are willing to stop the commerce out of respect for the human being behind the cards they collect. I had a lot of respect for it. You are stopping people from transacting on your, on the whole scope of things, your little group here. But I thought that was kind of cool. And I think, Chris C., who probably would have respected that too, and been happy to comply with that. So Lapper says Jerry West, his rookie card PSA 6 is up 25% in the last 14 days. Well, that means it's got 25% to go down in the next 14 months is what I think maybe happens here. PSA 5 sold for double the previous comp on the 12th, he said. What were you going to jump in with?
I want to push back just a tiny bit on that. I mean, I think someone as important as Jerry West, who, again, the logo, sometimes, again, I'm not saying it's not going to come back down, but I would be surprised if it comes all the way back. I could be wrong, but I do think that appreciation surges and levels out a little bit higher of the truly important and relevant icons of the sport, and I think West qualifies as an icon.
So just to keep it simple, I will take that bet because I have seen it too many times, right? Where I've seen it over and over and over again, where they die, an established Hall of Famer, they die of old age, natural causes, and card spikes up and it comes right back down, as important as they might be. So listen, I hope you're right. I would like to see it. But at the end of the day, once the initial rush of people buy them, it just becomes a supply and demand thing. All this pent up demand gets satisfied in the 3 weeks after the death, or the 3 months, however long it takes, and then they'll have their card. They don't need to double. So now everyone else who's going to eventually sell their Jerry West cards, unless they're just going to stick it at a super high, opening bid, or buy it now, they're going to, I think they come back down to where they left off before he died. That's my guess.
You're probably right, but that 61 Fleer West is not an easy card to find in good condition, particularly centering. So the number of copies that would go into a collection at the level that I know you like to have cards, which is with strong eye appeal and, well preserved. Maybe. I mean, I think there could be exceptions depending on the issue of the card that is sort of the target card.
Could be. Yeah. Listen, I said, I will take the bet, but I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm going to win that bet. I think.
No, you probably are. I'm arguing the other side because I don't know why I'm arguing the other side, but
couple of nice comments when you showed your 70 West. Chris loves the 70. Mark said nice card too. Thanks, guys. Chris C says it was also 8 others that died, including his daughter. Like that's like, right. Unless I'm in the business, like I have a store or I'm at shows, like if I was at a card show the weekend after he died, I'm not pulling my Kobe's out of the cabinet when people are going to want them more than ever. But as a collector, I don't think I'm going to go to in the Kobe case that I would have just gone to sell them, knowing I could buy them back, or believing I could buy them back, 6 to 12 to 18 months down the road at a discount for what I sold them for. Lapper had to Google the meaning of tangential. I love it. I talk to Joe a lot. I'm literally on Google every time he texts me trying to find out the meaning of a word. Sorry, go ahead with what you were going to jump in with.
Well, the other thought that goes through my mind, and I guess this is more in the realm of confession, but it may be asking you the question too, because as you mentioned, it's probably not going to be the time to buy, let's say, a high-end Jerry West rookie card for the next year. And while I do believe it will come down, maybe it'll come down all the way, maybe it won't, who knows? But regardless, I think it's fair to say that, I mean, unless you make the argument that a whole bunch of people that have been holding on to West cards are going to flood the market and there'll be a saturation point, which will bring the price down. But, a lot of those cards don't get put up in, they're a set fixed price auction or something like that. But the other thought I've had, and, I'm a pretty big Willie Mays collector, and he's 93 years old. And, how much thought do you give around either cards that you think you're going to want to pick up in your, PC, long-term PC, to quote unquote beat the rush? And how much thought do you give to considering cards that maybe you have doubles of, right? Maybe you have multiples of, a particular Maze issue that is valuable, timing a sale that in your own personal journey of collecting, buying, and trading is coming up. So I don't know, Jeremy, do you think about players' ages in that regard? And I don't know if they're like,
you know what? Honestly, I don't, but you do. And you and I spend enough time talking to each other that you've just reminded me of Willie Mays again, who's, going to die soon because he's 93, whether it's in a month or 10 years, hopefully the longer. But I want his 53 Topps card, and the best time to buy it is probably now, better than when he dies, because you don't know if it's going to, for certain, even though I think it will, come back down in value. The 53 Topps Maze is one of my all-time favorite vintage cards. I just think it's the most beautiful.
High number.
It's up there with the Pee Wee Reese Bowman color. Like, it's an amazing piece of artwork. I absolutely love it. So he's 93. Maybe I should go grab one sooner than later.
Or be ready to wait. Because you probably need to wait a year or two after he passes to find that so I don't know. But then, there's also the argument of kind of buying, selling into the hype. And I don't know, how many collectors are attenuated to this phenomenon. But I've heard people talking about it at shows, and I've heard people speculating in that way and prospecting in that way, not in the way that we do with rookies, but in the way of what's going to
right. We're prospecting death and mortality, and it's, hey man, it's an angle. It's an edge that somebody might have if they're stocking up on players who might die sooner than later. It is an awkward way to talk, but it's reality. Let's do a few comments here. Mark Santucci agrees Willie Mays will live longer. Hopefully you're right. Mark Santucci also says here, in showcases at card shows, I see more baseball, football, and hockey, and very little basketball. Maybe I just don't notice. Mark, what I think it is partially is that there's 3 vintage baseball sets before 1970. Like, that's all you got is the 48 Bowman and the 61 Fleer and the 57 Tops, and then you got nothing until 69, right? 69
basketball,
69 Tops. So there aren't that many vintage basketball cards in existence, and I think that's part. Whereas hockey, baseball, football, you've got sets every year, really starting in the early 50s. So, and sometimes 2 of them. I think that's a big part of it there. Let's do some more examples here. Vintage here says, would you buy an older player anticipating his death with the intent to sell? Most obvious. I didn't even see this comment until I'm reading it right now, but we've already covered that topic. Vintage. You were ahead of the show on that one. Yitz says, I mean, people always ask me do you have any players that are of age? Second to, can we do a trade up challenge? Lots of I got to tell you, the Montreal Expo, there were a lot of trade up challenge people walking around the floors there. Mookie says, we have an after hours bet. Check back in the year. Winner gets a Jerry West. Yeah, I don't know if we're making a bet over it. Corey Carr in the house. Corey, great to see you, buddy. Welcome to the late night show. Welcome back. All right, Colin Murray with some talk about Mike Bossy, who passed away young a few years ago. He says, Mike Bossy rookie card spiked when he died. Now it's way down from where it was. Hobby and business are treated different. If a player gets an injury, you are stuck with a loss. Sell when you can, regardless, he's saying. So what Colin is saying, and I guess he's saying how he does in his card buy sell business is, when the opportunity presents itself for whatever reason, sell the card if you can. I mean, a lot of people buy a card thinking they're going to sell it when the player goes into the Hall of Fame. That's a joyous occasion. I think a lot of people buy cards thinking they'll sell them when a player dies too, because that's another one of those events that puts them in the news for it's a sad reason, but it's not really a bad reason, like, some domestic violence charge or something like that, which is a bad reason. That's when I'm making a distinction between bad and sad. Old people die. It's a way of life. Unfortunately, that's the way the world goes. So it's not so bad, but it is definitely sad. Thoughts?
Well, maybe one way to look at this, I mean, I'm thinking about it just now on the spot, but like with Jerry West, I mean, like I said earlier, the first thing I did was, what Wests am I holding? I got that 70 big boy, but I also have a 61 Fleer that's centered, but it's a BVG 4, but it's a nice 4. It's a pretty nice 4. And I thought I'll be honest, I thought to myself, do I want to sell those cards? And my answer was no. I like both of those cards. And so maybe there's some reckoning that happens with us in that moment of passing where we really kind of assess either the particular cards or our relationship with that player more concretely. Because, I mean, as morbid as it might be, it wouldn't have been a bad time to toss up a couple of those cards if I had the interest in selling them, which I didn't.
Colin Murray here says, when Kobe went to the Hall of Fame, his cards went down in value. Well, that's what happens in that's what I see happening. But it's because the card goes up 6 months earlier when the speculation that they're going to be announced that they're going to go into the Hall of Fame. I think basketball is announced in like January, or at least it was pre-pandemic. Well, if you knew before the announcement came out that Kobe was going to go into the Hall of Fame, or you thought this was the year it was going to be that he'd get in, when it's announced, that's when the buying frenzy starts. Once he's in the hall, it's too late. You're too late once they're on induction night. That you missed the boat by then. The market operates a little bit more efficiently than waiting for that day. And maybe Colin noticed some other reasons why it went down when he went to the Hall of Fame, but to me, that's probably the number one reason, because it spiked earlier. It already went up before that. That's what I've noticed happening. Vintage here says, I'll confess, when looking at potential autograph targets at the National, I looked up several ages to see who might not sign much longer. Yeah, because you got to get them before they die. I think there's nothing wrong with that. And hey, they're there to make money too. So may as well capitalize if you can on their autograph before they die, if they are there. Mookie says it would be interesting to know what happened to Mantle cards when he died in 1995. I guess there's no data. Yeah, that'd be, maybe Dr. Beckett would remember, and a few others, of course, but I don't know. Bossy and Lafleur passed away a week apart. Mark Santucci reminds us of that. Justin Bode is here. Better late than never, buddy. Better late than never. And for everybody else who's joined us late, I'm going to remind you again, because I'm excited about this, but Leighton Sheldon and myself, who Leighton's been joining Sports Cards Live for over 18 months for the Vintage Spotlight segment, guys. We are now officially today launching the new Vintage Spotlight YouTube channel and podcast. There is a look at what it is. And I ask you if you would be so kind to, I'm just going to get rid of the after hours banner. There we go for a moment so you guys can see this clearly. This is the Vintage Spotlight YouTube channel. It's been around for a couple months actually, but we just added the first video to it today. You can see episode number 1 of Vintage Spotlight right here, me and Leighton. It's even got a song, which I didn't write, but somebody did. Not a song, but a song, a tune. It's got a tune. Anyway, we started the night with 2 subscribers. We're up to 29 now. Let me hit refresh, see if we got any more in the last little bit here. Nope, still 29 subscribers. So it is the Vintage Spotlight is a spin-off of Sports Cards Live. It's its own channel, its own podcast. And just want to ask everybody if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, checking it out. Check it out, please. And follow along. We're going to drop episodes every 2 weeks is our plan. And Justin, thanks for joining, and throw a sub at it. Yeah, count me in, he says. Appreciate that. Vintage says there's a difference between an all-time great like Mays West and a good player like Bossy. Well, some will argue that Bossy is more than just a good player. Vintage Bossy is considered by many to be an all-time great. Now he's not a Mount Rushmore player. Mays is for sure. West probably is right up there. There is a bit of a difference, but it might not be as big as you think. Vintage, I don't know. Maybe it is. Lapper says, hey, if I had a card, go ahead and sell it. Someone makes a buck, and hopefully the person who gets the card wants the card, and it means something to them. Perhaps a great way to preserve a moment in time. Yeah, that's fine. Vintage, not surprised Bossy prices corrected down when the news cycle moved on. Oh, it's going to move on for everybody, including Mays. I think it'll move down for Mays. It'll move down for West. It'll move down for everybody. My thoughts. Again, it's simple supply and demand. It's not Matt. I don't think any player is immune to that personally, but we'll see. CC, good evening, and thank you for subscribing to the new channel. I'm coming up on 3 hours of talking here, Joe, so I'm starting to stumble on my words here, I guess. We're up to 20. Let's hit the refresh and see the new sub come in. 33. We went from 29 to 33. Thank you guys. That is awesome. Appreciate that. I hope you guys like it. Their first app, only 44 minutes. We're going to try and keep them to 30-minute episodes, but it's going to be tough to do, but we'll try our best. Did you sub, Joe?
I did. Yeah. I think I was number 8.
Number 8. That's early.
Speaking of Kobe, right?
Oh, there you go. JB, thanks for subscribing, buddy. And I know Justin always loves the Vintage Spotlight segment with Leighton. So thanks, Justin. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate it, guys. It's also going to be on all the podcast platforms. Let's see, 33. 33. You guys are both part of the 33. So thanks, guys.
I know it's live now, but I'm just curious. Did it go how you thought it would go? Because I haven't watched it yet. I mean, did you kind of have some notes? I mean, tell me a little bit about the process of preparation and then actually bringing it into.
So me and Leighton have been talking about it for about 3 months since we decided we were going to do it. It just took a while for us to get it done, but we've now got it done as I just showed y'all. What we have some segments that we're going to try and address during the episodes. Now we've got 7 segments identified, but we've said, listen, I said to Leighton, we don't need to touch each of the 7 every episode. We can do 7 or 6 or 5 or 4 or 3. We can do whatever we feel right about. So one of them we're going to do is key sales. Like Leighton watches all the auction houses. So if there's a key sale that happened at an auction house or 1 or 2, we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to dig into the set that card came from and try to educate people on the set that card came from. We got trends and observations, like for this month's or this episode. I'm pointing to it on my other screen. We talk about the fact that Major League Baseball is now incorporating Negro League stats into their stats. So Josh Gibson. So we get into that because that's kind of new. So we got key sales. Then number 2 is dive into the set. Number 3 is, and these aren't official names. Number 3 is trends and observations. 4 is fresh takes. So whatever takes we have on things. Then 5 is fresh to the market, which is like, because Leighton's a treasure hunter, he finds a new collection. Hey, look what's fresh and going to hit the market. 6 is collector spotlight. We want to talk about you guys. We want to feature a collector on episodes. And number 7 is like, mailbag listener questions and that kind of thing. So that's where it stands right now. But I like to be very fluid in the content I do and be really open to pivoting it and changing it and adding and deleting and just always being nimble with it. So don't expect what I just read to be the same things, 3 months from now. We will have, I think, added and taken away and kind of just go with the flow. So that's it. We came up with these through some emails, kind of what are your thoughts for the pod? What are mine? And we came up with the artwork. Leighton's guy did the artwork for it. So I have nothing to do with just to show you guys again, like he came up with all this, the color scheme, the silhouette, the font and all that. And and even the thumbnail was one that Leighton's guy designed. So
I forget who the commenter was, but I liked that your hockey crowd was, a little quizzical about why not a hockey figure in this baseball thing, but who knows? Maybe that could be a hockey stick that the guy's got on his shoulder.
It's definitely Mickey Mantle. That's the 52 tops Mantle silhouette is what that is right there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have a target time or just a general amount of time that you're shooting for in terms of the cuts, or is it's going to evolve as it evolves?
The length of the episode?
Length of time.
Yeah, we want to be like 30 minutes, but the episode 1 here, as you can see, went to 44 minutes.
Okay.
Which if we can keep it under 45, I'll be happy. My content is so long as it is that I want to offer the audiences something a little bit shorter if I can. So,
right.
But yeah, I think it'll be great. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it. LGC says waiting to be subscriber number 69. Space 99 Yak. The only thing guaranteed in life is death and taxes. The topics of the show today. That's right, 99. We want to talk about PWCC being rebranded to Fanatics Marketplace as well tonight before we sign off on this show. Triple V in the house. What's up, Mike? Just subbed to the Vintage Spotlight. Thank you for subbing. So we should be at 34 now. Let's refresh. 37. We've gone up 10 in the last 10 minutes. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, really, really appreciate it. Mookie says Josh Gibson cards went crazy and are coming down. Up like a rocket, down like a feather. But yeah, that's how it goes. Gary Keith in the house, everybody. What's up, Gary? I saw Gary today at my local monthly show. Bought some cards from him today, some hockey cards. Gary, it was great to see you today. And thanks for joining. Thanks for jumping on the stream here tonight. All right. Should we pivot and talk about the fact that PWCC is now like right away? I don't know when actually. I'm going to go and just on my other monitor. Let's see. So yeah, PWCC is still up on the internet as PWCC. Here's the website. Here's the premier auction. And well, I got to take that off again. As you can see, you got the PWCC branding here. So they are still branded as PWCC, but I think maybe it's by the end of June, or maybe it's Monday. I don't know. they will be rebranding it as Fanatics Marketplace, and PWCC as a brand will disappear from the hobby. Joe, I mean, you've got history with PWCC. What do you think of that? How does that make you feel? I've been tracking their sales for over 10 years now. I had a spreadsheet. I used to track sales of certain cards because we didn't have card ladders and all that stuff. So I was doing it myself. And the sale was, so many of those sales were, it was before they were even called PWCC. Their eBay handle was Pre-War Card Collector. I was like, where do these guys get all these cards from? Then I realized, well, they're a consignment seller. But anyway, what are your thoughts on that brand being deleted, not historically, but moving forward from the hobby landscape?
Right. I mean, for starters, I think there was some inevitability to all this because, once Fanatics acquired PWCC, I think it was a transition was initiated both in the organization in terms of people in the organization, people that you and I both know, began to leave and or were let go. So that's one component, and obviously Fanatics kind of has larger macro goals. Maybe they saw some opportunity there with a marketplace that was established, or software. I don't know exactly what they were looking for, but I think there's certainly PWCC comes with some degree of acrimony in the hobby with some of the accusations through the years. So maybe in some respects there's a little bit of a cleansing with the rebranding that might make people feel differently about it. I don't know. I'm fairly loyal in so much as I do use the PWCC vault, and I do occasionally sell cards on PWCC. I noticed about a month ago that I got an email that basically said all of my fixed market prices cards that weren't listed, that were listed more than 60 days old, were going to be summarily removed, and that I was invited to put them back on, but maybe be a little bit more mindful of the price point. Yeah. And I think that's maybe an understandable addition or strengthening of their marketplace. And I've heard a few things, kind of posited. I don't know if anyone quite knows for sure how they're going to handle their marketplace moving forward in terms of the fixed marketplace. But my sense is that the auctions are going to more or less remain the same. So Fanatics Collect versus PWCC, maybe it's, tomato, maybe it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, I see, on the one hand, sort of a bit of a corporate takeover, but on the other hand, maybe an opportunity for people to feel a little differently about the relationship to PWCC.
Yeah. No, good points and stuff. Let's go to some comments on it. Justin Bode, oh my God, my PWCC, honestly good for Fanatics. He says, I will miss my PWCC. I didn't know it was yours, Justin. He says, they have a good chunk of my cards, and that's okay. I mean, they're just changing the skin. They're just changing the brand. I think they're going to be adding some features, maybe some new types of marketplaces within the new Fanatics Collect marketplace. So we'll see, like peer-to-peer. They mentioned they want to do peer-to-peer. Well, that's eBay-ish, isn't it? I mean, so who knows? And with Fanatics behind them, maybe they can. I don't know. I was going to say give eBay a run for their money. I don't see that happening, at least not in the immediate future. But maybe they can carve out even a bigger segment of the pie than they already have. Professor says, I think he means I can't list my tag graded cards on PWCC, but Fanatics told me that will change 4 months ago. Maybe with the rebranding, this will change. I've heard that PWCC / Fanatics will soon be accepting, or you will be able to sell tag graded cards on there. I've heard that. Colin Murray says, what happens with the cards that have the PWCC, the eye appeal stickers, the top 15% and all that? I think that'll still be respected. I think it will be by the hobby. I mean, they are nice eye appeal cards, but really, it comes down to the same thing with just a non-I appeal stickered graded card. You need to assess it for yourself, whether you like that card for the grade. So to me, and I do this when I do PWCC shows, which I do 5 a month, I look at the card and I tell the audience, PWCC, I said it in a recent show. They gave an eye appeal sticker. I said, I wouldn't have given this the eye appeal sticker. To me, that is not a strong 8. That is an average 8 or a weak 8. But they gave it the sticker. They saw something I didn't, or I'm looking in 2D on my screen. They had it in hand. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think that, generally speaking, those eye appeal assessments will still be respected by the hobby. That said, we as individual collectors, participants in the hobby, need to assess the card, assess the grading company grade, and assess the PWCC eye appeal sticker as well. My thoughts. CC says, even with the negative things that happened with PWCC over the years, can't deny that they have been a part of the hobby landscape for over a decade. Kind of sorry to see the name PWCC leave the hobby. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, hey, I'm adaptable. I'll be fine personally, but I think people might miss it for sure. Professor says, grading direct from your PWCC vault has been very slow and inefficient. Maybe with rebranding, this will also change. He says, I'm interested to see if the MBA authentication service will continue. Yeah, that's a great question. I wonder as well. Justin says, does it go away? I don't think it goes away. I think that that the eye appeal is a part of PWCC, which was acquired by Fanatics. So maybe they just changed the logo on the sticker. That's it. Right. Simple as that. And now you'll have a pre-Fanatics takeover and you'll have 2 versions of it, but there's already several versions of the PWCC eye appeal sticker and cards.
I mean, one other thing, I mean, I'm sure most people listening to this already know this, but there was the relationship with Sotheby's that was also kind of announced, which I think, on looking at the bright side, I mean, I think the goal there is to kind of maybe dovetail some, collector, interest in what might otherwise be considered the art world, which I think those of us on, the cardboard side of things would probably appreciate that, even if we don't have, what is it, a PSA 8 Leaf Jackie Robinson. I don't know, that's the poster card that they're showing as the first one that will be auctioned off in a live auction, right? We're so used to these, impersonal eBay and other auction house auctions, but a live auction. Jeremy, have you ever been to a live auction? Have you done the old,
not for sports cards. I have been to like antique auctions before, but never to a sports card auction, and never to an antique auction that had a lot with sports cards in it. Or if it did, it was like a pallet of 90s trash to bring back a term we used on the previous episode tonight.
Well, no,
I just want to quickly thank This Hobby Life over on Instagram for becoming subscriber number 40 on the Vintage Spotlight YouTube channel. Again, for anyone who just got in, this one right here, the new YouTube channel that myself and Leighton Sheldon launched really today with the first episode. I don't want to keep boring people with the same thing because a lot of you have been here the whole show. So yeah. Listen, I think PWCC being rebranded, we've known it was coming for a long time. I'm neutral on it. I don't really care that much. I think I do like that there's a new management team in. I do like that they've got money behind them now in Fanatics, so they can grow and be a legitimate competitor. Or I don't say legitimate. I think they were a legitimate competitor, but I think they become an even bigger competitor to the behemoths in the industry. Yeah. Mookie Chilson's comment says, fascinating that Fanatics chose a Jackie rookie and not a Mantle to lead off their high-end auctions. They will use Fanatics Fest as a long promo for the auction a few weeks later. Pretty smart. Yeah, Fanatics Fest New York. Anybody planning to go to that? Joe, do you have any? I mean, you're shaking your head. You're not going. Would you like to go even if you're not going to go?
I would love to go to the Big Apple and, hobnob with the hobby elite. But yeah, I'm going to Burbank in August. That's my next show date. I'm not going to be at the National, but yeah, I would love to go to New York City. How about you?
I would love to also. I may go. I'm contemplating it. I did just finally book my travel for the national, so I'm now 100% confirmed for the national. So
Cool.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm happy about that. I'll be flying in Tuesday night and flying out Sunday at 4. So I'm there for basically the whole thing, which is a long haul, but I'll be there for it. So I've been to the National in Cleveland 3 times before. This will be my 4th Cleveland National. So I like the Cleveland National. I don't love that the hotels, you can't walk to the hotels, but you deal with it. It's not that bad. So I've always liked it. Let's see. Some more comments have come in here. Justin Bode says, I like that Fanatics came to where I like to buy cards, means they are smart. Colin Murray says, I have run 3 live sports card auctions. Awesome experience and a ton of fun. That's awesome, Colin. I don't think I knew that you'd run them live. That's really cool. Check out Hockey Card Exchange, guys. And Professor says PWCC tried to get unsuccessfully numismatic coins, both sports and non-sports, going on their marketplace. I am watching if this gets restarted in the rebranding. I don't know. I mean, Fanatics is not in the coin business. They're in the sports business. So I could see them just saying, forget it. But maybe not. Maybe they don't. And with the Sotheby's relationship, maybe they funnel coins to Sotheby's. I have no idea, really. So I'm not going to say much more about that because I really have no clue. So we're over an hour here, Joe. I wanted to go for about an hour tonight. We covered the topics. So let's just go for a couple more minutes. Guys in the chat, again, thank you for joining the earlier episode with David Harstock. We got into the weeds with the tax stuff. I think that I'm really happy with how that episode went. I think we got out a lot of good information. So thanks again to him and the chat that was there before and everyone who's here now. And of course, everybody who, really went and subscribed to the new Vintage Spotlight YouTube channel. Really grateful that you guys did that. We're at 40 subscribers right now. I'm going to do a quick refresh, see if we can. 42. Thank you. I get so excited by the subscribers. I mean, that's just awesome. I got to say, it's kind of fun to build the YouTube channel from scratch after doing this one over 4 years ago.
And the topic of the show, I mean, I think I glanced at it, was T206 cards or sort of rare. Is it rare backs on T206?
Yeah, it's the T206 rarities. What we do in this episode, Leighton put me onto a chart that shows all the different backs, the T206 backs, and
right.
a low and a high estimate of how many copies exist across all players with those backs.
Right.
It's really cool.
Well, you had that one episode, I forget the collector's name, but I think they specialized in the polar bear backs, and then you got kind of enchanted with the polar bear reverse. Did you ever pick up a polar bear reverse, or?
No, I mean, the Ty Cobb polar bear would be the one I'd like to get, but now that I've learned more about it from this episode right over here, there are some other card backs that I think are pretty cool too, but the polar bear, especially that collector you're referring to, is Chris Torres, CRT Sports Cards. I love that guy. It's because of him that I want the polar bear. It's all it takes is I respect the collector. It's what he likes. I might go for one of those.
I mean, they all have aesthetics, and I mean, I'm not a big T206 collector, but the one that obviously, Tolstoy, especially as a literature guy, seeing Tolstoy, it's spelled the Russian way, I guess, which, is strange because they're English letters, but lexicon. And then the polar bear is cool because of the blue, right? That deep blue, which I think is cool. But the one I like actually is the American Beauty.
We talk about the American Beauty a lot on that episode. I mean, that discussion does take up the first chunk of the episode, the talk about the different backs. But it's writing titles for YouTube episodes when you talked about 8 different things is really hard. What do you pick? So I just tried to pick something that I thought would be interesting to the viewers. And I went with T206 Rarities Explained, as you can see, but that just discusses a small part of the overall show. There are other topics there. Let's Go Jordan. Thank you for being subscriber number 43. Justin Bode says, who wants to be 44? Yeah, guys, we got 62 people watching right now between YouTube and Twitter alone. Instagram, you guys can see right here, 4 people watching on Instagram. This is what I see when I look at Instagram. You can see everyone who's kind of come in and out. You get good traffic. They just don't stick around for long on Instagram here. But thanks everybody who is watching on IG, and feel free to subscribe to the Vintage Spotlight YouTube show. We're at 43. Are we still 43? 44. Everyone, I appreciate every single one, I have to say. I really do. Let's Go Jordan says, I'm a T206 back nut. My red cob back is polar bear. Just makes arm and leg. I don't know what that means, just makes arm and leg, but that's what the card I want. Let's Go Jordan is the red cob polar bear. That's kind of the cob I want. So very cool. I'd love to see your copy just out of interest. All right, Joe, you ready to wrap up? I'm ready to wrap up.
Yeah, we've had a good show. Thank you so much. And happy Father's Day again. And happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there in YouTube land, especially my friends who are out there and parenting. And if you have a dad around or you don't, I hope you spend some time sending them some love and goodwill in your own way tomorrow.
Some funny. That's nice, Joe. Thank you for that. Richie Rocket says he's coming in at number 45. Let's go. Let's go. 47. Never mind 45. We got to 40. Can we get to 50 before we stop the show? I'm not going to wait till 100. 902 Vintage. Welcome to the show, by the way. Says stay live and push through till you reach 100. Yeah, that's hilarious. I'd like to, but
it's like those old telethons, where it's like we're up to, $50,000.
We're still at 47. We're still at 47. I see. Let's Go. It says costs an arm and a leg. You can. Oh yeah. Please send me a picture and both sides of it. I'm sure you will.
That's a hell of
I'd love to see both sides. Thanks, Aaron and Lapper. Always great. Eric Stefano's here. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. One last refresh. 47. We're gonna stop at 47, guys. Thank you, everybody, for just everything. Seriously, for just everything. I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic, a little emotional, a little nostalgic right now. Like 4 years and 2 months of Sports Cards Live now under my belt, our belts. Vintage Spotlight starts today on YouTube. That's pretty cool. I'm excited. I'm just really grateful for everybody's viewership over the years here. Definitely grateful. Justin Boat says, happy Father's Day, Jeremy. And to all you dads in the chat, thank you, Justin. Mark Santucci says, thanks, Jeremy, for 2 great shows. Happy Father's Day. Thank you. Happy Father's Day to you, Mark, if you're a father. Everybody else out there who might be a father, appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Joe, that's it. I'll let you say a final couple words to the chat.
Yeah,
if you want to.
If and when
49. Sorry, 49. Maybe we hang on to 50, Joe. Can we get to 50, you guys? Can we get to 50? We can't stop at 49. 50.
There we go. Half century.
We got to 50. You guys are the best. Thank you. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. And Mookie says, Viva SCL, long live Vintage Spotlight, pay your taxes. Right on, Mookie. I appreciate you, Mookie. I appreciate all you guys. I really do. All right, Joe, thanks. Say goodbye to the chat and we'll wrap this up.
We're all good. Hope everyone stays safe and look forward to meeting you in real time sometime down the road.
Right on. All right, guys. Dr. Mantis T-Boggin says thumbs up to 50. Justin, congrats. Gary Keith, thank you. All right, guys. We're going to wrap up. After hours here, June the 15th, 2024. Thanks for joining. This was fun. Joe, thank you, guys. This episode of After Hours on the Sports Cars Live YouTube channel for June the 15th, 2024 is now over. Good night, everybody.